Hey guys, we are on day 7 of our story of St. Patrick, and we're right where it happened that the king had finally invited Patrick. Do you remember a couple of days ago where they were talking about, we have to kill him, he doesn't believe in our false gods? Now the king has said, come, Patrick, come tell me of Christ. Come tell me of your light of Christ. All right, and here he's getting ready to go. And so it was. The next morning found Patrick and his friends on the road to Tara Hill. And they walked. And Patrick talked. And he saw the fear in their eyes, for none of them carried weapons. So they had just seen all those druids come after him, so they were still a little nervous because they were just common guys. They didn't have any weapons. And yes, Benin, you remember little Benin, was huddled between them. They had promised to live by Christ's teaching, to harm no living thing, but their minds were filled with fear. Our power, our strength, began Patrick, is the power of Christ, right? We have no strength. We can't do anything on our own. It's when we have the power of Christ behind us. That's how things can happen in our world. That's who protects us. Is the power of Christ in our hearts. It can do so much more than we could ask or imagine. Did not Christ promise in the holy books that the powers of darkness cannot prevail? Join me in this song. Let us sing of Christ. Then they all joined Patrick and sang, Christ at my right hand, Christ at my left hand, Christ in front of me, Christ behind me, Christ above me, Christ below me, Christ within me, Christ outside of me, Christ everywhere, and everywhere Christ. Wow. You guys will hear that probably on the Sunday around St. Patrick's Day. We usually read that at church, and I hope you guys will listen to that and with a little bit different knowing that St. Patrick was a real man who trusted God. All right, let's see what happens next. This is fun. Now, again, you guys, some of the details of these stories, they're things that have been passed down for generation to generation. But again, I love hearing that Christ before me. That's the way my path is going to go. This one's called The Deer's Cry. They continued singing as they passed through the crossroad, with Benin trailing at the end with his little bundle and harp. I love that he carried a bundle of books and a harp. They were following the road to Tara Hill to see the king. They did not notice that Lokru and his band were hiding, nor did Lokru and his band notice them. All Lokru and his band noticed was a small herd of deer pass over the crossroad, followed by a little fawn. The druids were growing bored and restless, hiding and waiting near the crossroad, waiting to kill Patrick and his friends. Lokru, one of them, finally said, This Patrick and his band must have changed their hearts. They must be running from us, with their tails between their legs, back to Britain where they came from. Then he came out of hiding and walked up and down the crossroads. See, he said, the roads are empty, not a soul in sight. Come see for yourself. Then they all came out of hiding because they knew that Lokru felt much hate in his heart. He did not know what he was doing. Lokru finally came out. He looked in all 4 directions, up and down the crossroads, but saw nothing. Back to Tara Hill, he snapped. He knew that in some strange way, he had been defeated. So the bad guy was defeated. Yes, the one who was going against Christ was defeated. The day is not wasted, joked one of the druids. We did see a stag leading his band of deer at the crossroads and a fawn that was following them. But that was hours ago, another said. I know, said Lokru, who had heard the deer singing. I don't like this, he muttered as he followed the druids back to Tara Hill. On the fawn's back was a bundle and a harp. But none of them heard him. To this day, the song that Patrick and his friends sang as they passed by Lokru and his band is known as the deer's cry. What do you think? Could it be that as they passed, God changed the druid's eyes to only see them as like deer going by? And the little fawn in the back, little Benin, with his bundle and his little harp? I don't know, but it sure is a beautiful thing. Meanwhile, Patrick and his friends were being welcomed by the warriors and the poets in the hall of the High King. And there, at the far end of the hall, stood the king himself, who shouted 100,000 welcomes, and his beautiful Queen Agnes stood beside him. So they were being made to feel very, very welcome. Patrick and his friends approached the king and bowed low. "Tell us, Patrick, tell us about your God, Christ our light." Patrick paused a few seconds before he addressed the king. "I know you wish peace in your lands, O king. Buckle to your heart this day the power of Christ. This is the power that unites, the power that respects. It guides, it guards, it protects. It is the power of love. This is our teaching. Do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. Forgive those who harm you, just as the Father in heaven forgives you." Patrick then went on to tell him about the life of Christ, and all listened. Then he paused and spoke the following words. "This is the message I wish to spread throughout your kingdom. I wish all your people to live in Christ's peace, harmony, and light." The king sat spellbound. Patrick's words were like music to his ears. Yes, the words of Patrick had touched his heart. Tears were streaming down Queen Agnes's cheeks. Slowly, the king arose and spoke. "I shall consider all you have said." Then he heard Lokru and the druids entering the high hall. They were going to be pretty upset, weren't they? With a loud voice that all could hear, he announced, "Let all know that Patrick has my protection and consent," that's like his permission, right? "To spread the message of Christ, his God, throughout my kingdom. Whoever harms Patrick harms me." So the king knew those druids. He knew that they were not going to be happy. And so he spoke up before they could say a word and said, "Just so you know, I've heard the words of God, and Patrick has told them to me, and I give Patrick permission to go through my whole kingdom and tell people about Jesus." Patrick's heart swelled with joy hearing the words of the king. Then, with his face shining like the sun, with a firm voice he sang, "I buckle to my heart this day the love of God to show the way. His eye to watch, his ear to hear, his hand to lead me on the way." Patrick was going to go around Ireland and tell so many people about Jesus. I hope you guys will go out today. I hope you'll think about, pray, who can I tell about Jesus? Ask God to show you your path just like he showed Patrick. All right, you guys, I will see you tomorrow. We'll wrap this all up, but I'm so glad you've listened to this story about a true missionary, someone who loved God and loved telling everyone about Jesus. I'll see you tomorrow.